Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Friday, January 3rd, 2025, and today's topic will be, I'm going to call it art progression, and part of it is just progression on this drawing, but also in general, like the idea of kind of how to tell if you're making progress or how you're making progress, because you're going to make progress, but then maybe the question is like how to make progress and where you're at, because that's something that I've been thinking about. But before we begin, I want to welcome you if you're new and welcome back if you are returning. I sketch and post every day, and I use timers to stay focused and to build a sketching habit. So I'm going to set a 10-minute timer starting now. So I'll link to the previous two videos, and if you want to see like the progress, which is today's topic, and yeah, you'll pretty much see how I developed it. But yeah, just talking about like progress or the progression of specifically like a drawing like this. First, I'll talk about like the tools. You can see in the other videos also. It's just a medium point felt tip pen. I also have this fine point. This is a Papermate. This is a Sharpie fine point. Also a Sharpie like paint marker for partly for mistakes, and also it also gives this gray tone if you paint over it and then go back over it with like pen. It gives like a gray tone, and if you really wanted to go over that again, you can use like a black, but it would have to be like the paint. Those are all the pens or the tools that I use. I'm gonna work. So this is the rest of the picture. I turned it into partly, well, it is world building, but it's about as far out as I can go. So yeah, I'm just gonna work on this to begin with. These pens are starting to run out a little bit, and so yeah, part of this is just like the progression of this picture, which you can see in this mini series. And I also wanted to talk about how when you so far this has taken about maybe 5 hours total, because I'll usually do like a 30-minute video, and then, or for these I was doing like 30 minutes, and then I'll work on it for like another hour or two maybe. And so yeah, it's about like 5, maybe 6 hours. And that's also important, like the idea of like how much time something takes. So on these, basically like now, like nowadays going forward, I track like the time, but this is personal work. This is my idea that I'm working on, but I still track the time because I kind of want to know, because before I would have deadlines, and in some ways that's good because it does make you like it motivates you to finish stuff in a certain amount of time. But so like that's good to a certain extent. I think like it had its benefits but also disadvantages, because I always felt like I wasn't happy, or like, and also I wasn't sure, kind of like going back to the idea of the progress, like I wasn't sure where I stood with my work. It was kind of just based on other people and what they would accept, because sometimes like, so the client would accept work maybe because of course they also had a deadline, so there's that. So yeah, I mean, in some ways it's good in the sense that it did give it there was a progress to it, like a sense of progression. because you finished a piece and kind of kept going. So I'm figuring out how to have some of that, but at the same time work on something that is where I'm like basically like the art director. So, but yeah, going back to the idea of the progress. So the time, so I set a timer, and then whenever I go back and work on it, I'll usually count up. Like I'll set a timer, like basically I'll just kind of like work on it, and it'll be an hour. But you kind of have to like work your way, or at least for me anyway, I kind of had to like basically do this, build the habit of it, and then yeah, like once you kind of do it for a while. But I still set a timer even now, like to begin with. But then whenever you are actually in the zone, as they say, then I still like to keep track of how much time I spend on something, because there's also that thing of just going back to the progress, and specifically of like a piece that you're working on, like a drawing or a painting or something, or even a sketch, honestly. Because I mean, in some ways this is still sketching. It's kind of good to not overwork it, or it is good to not overwork it, and that's what a timer will help with. So you can either count down, which is what I'm doing right now, or you can like just count up, like how much time. Because when you're in the zone, like time is, or in the flow state, like part of how you know is because time passes without without you noticing. And so I just keep which is a great feeling, by the way, but like the problem is sometimes, one, you have to do other stuff, there's that, but then also you can overwork a piece, and then it kind of makes you feel bad, and yeah, it makes you like not want to do it. But the flow state is in a way like kind of a positive addiction, I guess. I don't know if it's an addiction, but it's like a state of like a feeling, or like an experience. So I'm just gonna work kind of on this area. I mean, you can see I added like more detail, obviously, in like a sword. I'll work on the shirt or the tunic a little bit, although I did want to add like some detail, but I mean, I don't mind keeping it sort of simple. And then like using, like the look of it is kind of important. So I'm just using like a smaller point, and then sometimes I'll go back to like the medium point. But yeah, like so I'm running out of this one a little bit, but not enough to where I'm gonna switch out. I'm gonna still use it. So these are fine details, but at this point it's sort of switching back and forth. There's some areas that I'm still sketching, but like I'm not gonna really detail it because I already have like the focal point. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so yeah, I track like how much time, and then that way I can have so there's just like different apps you could use, or you could just write it down. Like there's some things that I write down on paper, but then there's some things I just use, like there's a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna, I mean, sometimes I use different apps just because, even though they're kind of doing the same thing, just because I like playing around with them. But yeah, if you can get like a tracker, like something that has like a timer but also tracks like cumulatively, I find that to be pretty helpful. Now, those kinds of apps, like I would use them when I would do freelance to track how many hours and everything, but then it's also good. I still use them because it's just kind of like helpful, and also it's good to see just the progress, since that's what we're talking about. Well, this is like the final kind of the final stages of this sketch, and it's really about like the fine detail at this point. I mean, part of it is like there's areas that should be detailed, but you kind of have to do it patiently because it's mostly done. And then also there's like the thing of world building. Like some of these things. So I basically use like the artwork as a way for me to get into the story that I'm writing, that I'm working on and also writing. But the way I'm writing it is kind of like I have a plot outline, but it keeps changing. So there's that. But then also it's good to start writing like some of the actual story, but then this helps. Also, the thing about when you get kind of to this stage, it's good to work on it. Like today, for example, I'll probably just put it to rest, like after I get it to where I'm at right now, and then come back to it later. That's the, like, if it were up to me, which I mean this is, like that's the way I would do it, is to kind of give it a rest. Because so as to not like overwork it. Especially when I'm talking and sketching at the same time. I mean, there's like some things I already had an idea of what I wanted. So there's the progress of a picture, which I bring it up because it's kind of good to kind of know where you're at when you're working on something. So to not overwork it, and also if you are needing to fix or adjust something, you can do it right then. Like you'll know pretty much where you're at. It's kind of like traveling, where since we are talking about progress, yeah, like you kind of want to know where you're at. I mean, it's good to just kind of drive, but if you do get lost, it's kind of good. Like it's good to know, okay, I'm lost, and how to get back on track. But yeah, I think it all starts with like the actual habit, kind of having a habit. And a routine. I think once you kind of, because I feel like anything that you do, like you kind of focus on and pay attention to and build like a habit with, it's, I mean, it's good in general. And then you can kind of reverse engineer it, because then you can say, well, if it works with art, like what else can that help me with? But yeah, going back to like the idea of progress, like that's what a sketchbook is also good for. But whenever I was doing illustration work, the pieces themselves, like I guess the portfolio pieces are also progress. So yeah, it's good to, that's a way of figuring out the progress of things, of your work. I'm just gonna have some trees back here, but I don't know how much detail I'm gonna put into them. So with this piece, I'm kind of thinking, so you can see, like I was saying in the other, you can see like the progress in the other videos. It didn't really start with too much of an idea, but then at this point, these can be characters, and but yeah, I still consider it a sketch because one, I'm gonna kind of leave it like this a little bit. Like I don't know if I'm gonna work on it that much more, but like I could for stuff like the sword and stuff like that. I can kind of add more detail. But yeah, as far as like progress and just kind of tracking, so the sketchbook helps with that, and then also like just tracking how many hours, also keeping like a streak going, like a daily streak. So it's good to like see all of those things. Like I track, like it just helps me. But like I still use timers because there's still resistance and stuff. But I mean, to me it's like working out, so I'll start to wrap this up. Yeah, I want to thank you for joining me for today's daily sketching routine. If you enjoy these videos, then please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.